It's time now for the Casey Ingram Show on WSTU. The opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not necessarily those of WSTU. WSTU does not endorse products that may be mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU. It's time to call in with your questions and comments at 220-9788, 220-WSTU. And now, here's Casey Ingram.
Good afternoon, folks, on a rainy Wednesday morning, and appreciate you tuning in. So, welcome to today's show. I feel like I'm in a twisted episode from an alternate universe. In 2018, the Board of County Commissioners agreed to pay for 50% of a station if it was built in Martin County. In December 2023, Martin County and Stuart gave the green light to staff to submit a proposal to Brightline, and it was just that, 50% Martin County, 50% Brightline, and they brought Stuart into the mix, committing Stuart to pay for a parking garage, which Stuart has wanted for years. We snagged the win, beating out Fort Pierce, who was ready to shell out for a 6,400 square foot station, throwing up to a $4.5 million for furniture, fixtures, and equipment, and lease the whole thing back turnkey for just $1 a year. Their plan even had sweeteners, a 3-year commitment of $250,000 a year from the St. Lucie Tourist Council for tickets, and guarantee of 5,000 student passes from Indian River State College. However, once awarded, city and county staff took the reins on negotiations. The public has been noticeably absent and not apprised of the transaction. In fact, the Board of County Commissioners has not had an update since the proposal parameters were approved in December 2023. The public has been made aware of the new agreement that no longer resembles the original proposal was at the August 12 City of Stuart meeting, where the public got wind of the fact that their coveted parking garage was scrapped. But Stuart is still on the hook for $30 million. Wait, what? As negotiations between Brightline and staff were carried out behind closed doors, our tidy 50-50 proposal morphed into a nightmare of 100% funding by the residents of Martin County and Stuart. And remember that parking garage? Poof, it's gone. But the $30 million price tag remains solely on the backs of Stuart residents. To top it off, we're throwing $800,000 Brightline's way for a marketing plan. Oh, and the cherry on top? Staff is eyeing bonds and loans that could inflate this bargain train station into a $60 to $80 million boondoggle. So I ask you, what on earth just happened? I said, hey, what's going on? So, folks, I'm not going to take calls in the first part of the hour. If I get through the show, I will look at taking calls then. But I encourage you to please comment on Facebook. If I don't get to your questions, I promise you that I will answer them this afternoon. I'll go back and look at all those things. So definitely do that. And also, I kind of start from the top here. There's a lot of things to cover. And in this show, we're going to cover the lack of transparency to the public with our funds and land at stake. Commissioners that have approved a lease with Brightline without reviewing it, at least publicly, nor has the public had the opportunity to review the lease. Agreements orchestrated by staff without commissioner input. Staff does not work for or report to the public. We pay their salary, but ultimately they work for the county administrator or city manager, and that position reports to and works for the commissioners. I will be clear, I am not trying to stop the train station. I am trying to stop Martin County residents and taxpayers from being mandated to fund 100% and more of a station for a private for-profit company who will charge us to park on our land, charge residents full price for tickets, and only provide 2 northbound and 2 southbound trips per day. Even Brightline does not believe there will be enough ridership to offer more stops in Stuart. Let's not also forget that Brightline is disincentivizing commuters by increasing their commuter prices by 251% in June. Even if you support funding the train station, you may want to pay attention to this show because the deal may not be as lucrative for you as you thought. As I see it, unless you are one of the few that own property near the proposed station, the station will be very expensive to our community in many ways. We're going to cover my background, the lack of communication from the city and county, why we are committed to pay anything, the Brightline ownership, proposal sent to Brightline, award letter requirements, cost of station is ludicrous, the interlocal agreement, the city lease, finances, the cost of the station, and the new vice mayor, his new price, Campbell Rich, and also transit-oriented development. Folks, I urge you with this show and in the comments on Facebook to please contact commissioners, whether you support it or you don't support it. The time is to contact commissioners now. You can contact the City of Stuart commissioners by writing all of them with one simple email address. It's in the comments on Facebook, and also this video will be posted on YouTube. commissioners@ci.stuart.fl.us. commissioners@ci.stuart.fl.us. That'll send an email to all 5 commissioners. They are meeting on this very topic September 9 at 4 p.m. The Martin County Commission will be meeting September 10 the next morning. It's preset at 10 a.m. there. You can email all the commissioners at comish@martin.fl.us. That's comish@martin.fl.us. Even better yet, if you can attend the meeting, that would be absolutely fantastic, but at least send an email. And folks, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. I support it, I don't support it, don't waste my tax dollars, whatever you want to say about it, whatever your opinion is. But they do need to hear from you now. There is a large contingent, not a large contingent, there's a small contingent in Stuart that has property near the tracks that are being very vocal about whether or not it's just about a train station. And it's so much more, folks. Your money is on the line, and that is what we are going to cover today. So let's cover my background. I have nothing to lose or gain in this. I started Florida Not All Aboard in 2014, and honestly, from day one, this has always been about taxpayer money. I don't feel that taxpayers should be funding a private entity. It's a private business. There is no other profitable passenger train system in the United States. If they think that their idea is the best thing and this idea is going to work, they should fund it. They shouldn't put it on taxpayers' back. I can only recommend to you to follow the money and ask the facts of other supporters of the train to see if they do have incentive to support it or not. YouTube videos with more information, and I have a website where I uploaded documents that should be readily available to the public, like the proposal, the award letter, and bond cost. They're at my website. They have not been readily available to the public, but you'll see that link, CaseyIngramShow.net, in the YouTube or Facebook comments. If you'd like to see any other documentation of the facts that I present, please message me on Facebook or email CaseyIngram@pm.me. I focus on the cost of taxpayers and the astronomical price Brightline is trying to charge us. While I am not a commercial real estate financier, I happen to be married to one with over 30 years experience. He's financed the Ritz-Carlton in South Miami Beach, the Hyatt in Grand Cayman, Home Depot, Laurel Canyon, California, among many others. He's financed all kinds of things, and there's only one reason Brightline is trying to get you to finance their infrastructure. It doesn't add up, and the traditional markets will never finance them. They even stated this very fact in their EIS of a decade ago, a report that they created a decade ago. Grants and free money are the MO, and it's up to us to demand transparency, honesty, and fiscal responsibility from our elected officials and their staff. The Board of County Commissioners has not seen a Brightline item since they greenlighted the proposal on December 12, 2023. The City of Stuart Commission offered zero citizen input and quietly removed the parking garage while still committing Stuart residents to $30 million on August 12. Shockingly, not one commissioner asked why residents were on the hook for $30 million when the proposal earmarked the money specifically for a parking garage. They voted 4-0 with Collins absent, and the only concern was the lack of a roof over the cars. It is almost as if they knew ahead of time and were not surprised or are behind Brightline at any cost. With the election, it is a new day with commissioners. I interviewed the new commissioners as candidates, and they do not believe we should be subsidizing a private company. That's great news, folks. Another group's popped up and started promoted by businesses within the vicinity. They are the only ones with an upside. The most vocal group have property downtown, and the few that will see an upside in property values, or perhaps they're envisioning the $600,000 pot of taxpayer money set aside for co-branding promotions. But if the latter is the case, the joke is on them, as the interlocal agreement specifies it will be allocated to Brightline to implement a marketing plan. One of the louder voices sits on the board of Martin County Tourism Board that allocated the $800,000. So a shout out to Save Martin County for posting that tourism board connection. The proposal submitted additional letters of support. Funny thing is, the letters they're pretty much verbatim of each other, folks. If you go to my website, view the proposal, the letters are at the end of the proposal. The supporters were the Stuart Martin Chamber of Commerce, Jensen Beach Commerce, Indian Town Chamber, Business Development Board, U.S. Sailing Center, Martin Industry Association, the Historical Society, United Way, Courtyard Stewart, Hutchinson Shores, Best Western, and Old Colorado Inn, and that is your connection to the Tourism Board. But you know what was absent in all those letters of support? The people being asked to foot the bill. There is no letters of support from just people, nor has there ever been a survey or a poll or even a workshop to see if this is what the people want and want to fund. This process has been anything but transparent. The county's paying for 50% of the station was agreed to in the 2018 settlement agreement without input from taxpayers, without a cap on cost. The room was opposed to the settlement, but our objections fell on deaf ears, and now here we are today. There has not been a vote, a poll, a workshop, gauge public interest, nothing. I expected 50%, but folks, we are asking to be paying for over 50% of the station. In fact, 100% of the station. They have been applying for grants since December. They stated that in their proposal that they were already applying for grants. Folks, none of those grants have materialized. Nothing. But yet we are committing, our commissioners are voting to commit us to $45 million regardless. There is no contingency on grants. There is no cap. It's $45 million. So who does this really benefit? So we'll talk about the ownership of Brightline. Brightline's parent company is Fortress Investment Group out of New York, who purchased the Florida East Coast Railway in 2007. 2017, SoftBank, a Japanese conglomerate, bought Fortress. Also in 2017, Grupo Mexico bought Florida East Coast Railway and the tracks. So a Mexican company owns the freight division and the tracks, but they reportedly gave Brightline the right to use the tracks in perpetuity. Then in 2023, SoftBank offloaded Fortress to Abu Dhabi-based sovereign wealth fund Mubadala Investment. This is in the United Arab Emirates. They own 70% of Fortress. Fortress insiders still own 30% of the company. Who are those insiders? Well, 3 of them are the founders. Wes Edens, his net worth is about $5 billion, folks. He owns, the Milwaukee Bucks, Aston Villa Football Club, a Premier Soccer League. $5 billion. The other 2, Peter Brigger is over $2 billion, and Randall Nardone, he's about $1.5 billion. But they're asking us to fund their company, to fund the infrastructure for their investment. That's who we're funding this for. 70% Mubadala Investments, 30% the billionaires of Fortress. And they want you and I, the taxpayers, and many of us can't even afford to ride the train, to fund their infrastructure. The city and the county sent a proposal to Brightline in December of 2023. Notably in the proposal are the financial commitments, and I'm going to go over those for you. And again, you can find this on my website. The county will deed the property to the city of Stuart, who will be the sole entity for all subsequent station-related leasing, permitting, and development activities. The city intends to lease the property to Brightline at a rate of $1 per year for a maximum period of 80 years. While the entire proposal should be considered one interconnected Brightline Stuart project, it is anticipated the cost will be apportioned as follows. The train station and track work, 50% Brightline, 50% county. Parking garage, 100% city. Total estimated Brightline Stuart project up to $15 million from Brightline, up to $15 million on the county. And I have no idea how they came up with this figure, but the city, they allocated $30 million for a parking garage. Folks, a parking garage should cost about $20,000 a space. It's a 400-space parking garage. That would be 100 spaces on each floor. At $20,000, that's $2 million a floor. So it should be $8, maybe $9 million for a parking garage. But somehow your City of Stuart officials allocated $30 million and then took the parking garage away. The proposal goes on to say cost estimates for this proposal have been developed based upon the Brightline Boca Raton station example, and it's hoped with more detailed site layout and building design as well as station development experience, actual construction costs may be lower. It's proposed the project funds would be provided directly to Brightline, who would be the lead entity responsible for all permitting, engineering, design, and construction activities. Where is the oversight, folks? Also, per the interlocal agreement, the county and city have already begun to pursue federal and state grants that would help offset the cost of Brightline Stuart project. Here we are 9 months down the road, going on 10 months. No grants have materialized. And finally, in the lease agreement, they would assign all revenue generated on the station site to Brightline. Brightline would operate and maintain the station. Also covered in the proposal, the station is proposed to be 8,750 square feet, a minimum of 200 parking spaces, a 500-foot platform, and 1,000 feet of track length. In March 2024, Martin County and Stuart were notified by Brightline via letter that their proposal was selected with the following requirements. This was an award letter that, again, has not been shared with the public through the city or the county until the August 12th meeting in the city of Stuart. It was tucked away in the packet but not talked about or discussed. March 4, 2024, among those requirements, you can find this letter on my website, thecaseyingramshow.net. Brightline will require that the terms will be included in the final agreements that we enter into with the city or county. Again, they require these terms listed below. Martin County commitment of $15 million for the design and development of the train station. City of Stuart commitment of $30 million. Funds shall be used for the design and development of the parking garage. But oh wait, there's more. And the train station. Somehow in that time frame, City of Stuart, you're being taxed by the county and the city, and now your train station parking garage has been changed to an and/or funding the train station. Also, agreement by Martin County to modify the 2018 settlement agreement, remove the obligation of Brightline to pay 50% of the station cost to be developed by the Treasure Coast, remove the obligation of Brightline to consent to and participate in the cost of building an aerial pedestrian bridge in downtown Stuart, agree that the fencing installed with Martin County that's currently contemplated in the raised trespassing prevention project will satisfy Brightline's obligation. Folks, it was never stated the aerial pedestrian bridge was to be a part of a garage in Stuart. They were supposed to pay for 50% of a pedestrian bridge somewhere in Stuart. How much is that little benefit that they're asking for to be taken off? I don't know, because we don't have a price of an aerial pedestrian bridge. But what I can tell you is I researched, if you remember a few years ago, there was a pedestrian bridge in Miami that collapsed. That was a $14 million bridge. So if this bridge up here is $14 million, they're asking for a $7 million release of commitment. They also in 2018 did agree to pay for $1 million worth of fencing that Martin County decided where they wanted it. They are removing that commitment as well, $1 million. And by the way, the raised trespass fencing, they will only pay for that in the agreement if they get a grant. Only if they get a grant. So if they don't get a grant, they're not even on the line to pay for the fencing. So, folks, this is a really big deal. And, of course, the 50% cost of the station that they had agreed to is out the door. We are on that cost for 100%. So, again, the award letter was not shared with the public in the Brightline update or workshop meeting with the county or the city. And this lack of transparency, while potentially committing us to around $80 million, is astonishing and disappointing. And there's more to that requirement. They require the city and county immediately fund the design dollars for the train station and parking garage. They're asking for $2.2 million for the first 18 months for the design and the permits. Full development rights to the 3 parcels where the parking garage and, there's no parking garage. That's in here, but it's gone. But where the train station will be, lease term of 80 years at $1 a year. Then they had another curious requirement, the right to develop a 4th parcel for transit-oriented development at the same terms, $1 a year for 80 years. They also, instead of having co-branding with the Tourist Transportation Development Council dollars, the $800,000, instead of co-branding $600,000 of that, they want the entire amount, full $800,000, to be contributed to Brightline to support the successful launch of the station. They also have an agreement. They're requiring an agreement that Martin County will enter into an interlocal agreement with the Florida Development Finance Corporation at the earliest possible date to allow for private activity bond proceeds issued on behalf of Brightline project to be used within the county. Folks, this one's very concerning, and we need clarification from our county commissioners. Previously, Brightline has gotten bonds through the FDFC on behalf of Brightline through the FDFC. Why is Martin County being asked to enter into an interlocal agreement? My question for Martin County commissioners, folks, are we going to be on the line if Brightline goes bankrupt and can't pay back these bonds? Why are we involved with this one? So that's a big red flag that needs to be clarified to the public. And lastly, in the event the city of Stuart remediates the city-owned land located south of Monterey Road, the city would agree to lease to Brightline approximately 3 acres of land at the same terms of the land. They don't say a parcel number. They don't say why they want the land. I did hear from City Manager Mike Martell about the TOD parcel and the city parcel, and he said it's not in the agreement at this time, and he doesn't own the TOD parcel because that's county-owned land. He's 100% correct. My concern is what's going to happen down the road, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later. Again, these are requirements, Brightline's words, not mine, requirements to enter into a lease for this train station that they want us to build. So we need clarification. Is this going to come up again in 6 months, a year from now? Are they just spoon feeding us residents, us taxpayers, taking a little bit more land, a little bit of our money at a time? Definitely needs clarification. So my question, where is the return of investment and economic analysis for the Brightline station? I haven't seen one. Do you know how many people will leave Stuart to go to other places versus come here for less options? Is it really going to help our downtown businesses? There are no studies. Even Brightline expects lower ridership, offering just 2 northbound and 2 southbound trips per day. How will that impact the use with so few schedule options? I'm shocked we are paying for all of it, and still Brightline tells us, take it or leave it, we're giving you 2 northbound and 2 southbound stops. The entire financial scheme foisted on the residents of Martin County, and even more egregiously to the residents of Stuart, came to light at the August 12th City of Stuart Commission meeting. While not publicly advertised, the bait of getting a parking garage was smoothly removed and switched with the requirement of $30 million from city residents. Will the county agree to Brightline's requirements? We have yet to see, as the August 6th and August 27 meetings were canceled. Again, this has all been negotiated by staff. The commissioners have yet to see a Brightline update since December of 2023. If you have followed my videos and posts over the last couple of weeks, you have seen I pointed out the station costs are astronomically high. Even the Vice Mayor of Stuart decided to speak out and say the cost should only be around $13 million. I'm glad to hear he's realized how insane the cost estimates provided by the city and county. That is what they're allocating to Brightline. But why didn't he speak out at the city meeting when he approved allocating the $30 million? Please do not think residents are naive and believe the allocated money will not be spent. We know better, and only one has to look at other stations Brightline has built to see they will take and use every dollar. Brightline Bogot's a $56 million station. The property appraiser values it at just over $17 million of improvements. However, take note that includes a 42,000 square foot library on that parcel that was built in 2013. It also includes a 129,000 square foot parking garage and an 8,000 square foot station. That is $95.28 per square foot of value. The Aventura station, Brightline said it's a $76 million station, but the property appraiser values the improvements at just over $2.2 million for 3 buildings, totaling 17,469 square feet. That comes to a value of $129 per square foot. Folks, I'm going to go over a lot of these per square foots because it is important. West Palm Beach was a $29 million station. Property appraiser has that valued at just about $6.3 million when it opened in 2018. 27,396 square feet. That equates to $230 per square foot. I'm not sure on the construction costs on the next 2 stations, so only providing value. Fort Lauderdale Station is valued at $3.8 million. just about 14,000 square feet, $275 per square feet for the value. The parking garage is valued at $5.8 million, 186,000 square feet, $31.22 per square foot. The Miami train station, aka Miami Central, valued at a whopping 18.9, almost $19 million, 90,000 total square feet, $210.55 per square foot. Why do I bring up the cost per square foot? Let's analyze a few properties in Martin County you will recognize. It is important to realize the outrageous allocations of $45 million or $13 million. Property appraisers are pretty spot on with values. The land is essentially free, so you go to the property appraiser's website, take the value of improvements, and divide it by the square footage. Every improved parcel provides these figures on the property appraiser's website. Previously, I used a 10,000 square foot station, but let's use the size in the proposal of 8,765 square feet. At $45 million, the amount the city and county are voting to allocate to the project, that's $5,134 per square foot. You heard that right, $5,134 per square foot. However, when I made the public aware of that figure, Vice Mayor Campbell Rich proclaimed there's so much misinformation out there, and somehow he came up with a figure around $13 million. Better, but it's still way too much. That equates to $1,483 per square foot. Let's review some familiar properties. For the record, I inquired about how this property will be appraised because none of the other counties valued their stations even close to what Brightline claimed they cost using taxpayer dollars and grants. Keep in mind, Brightline received grants and money from those municipalities. I want to thank Jenny Fields and her team for their help. They said, for a unique commercial building such as the proposed Brightline station, we would rather gather as many sources of valuation information as we can, which would incorporate building up a cost approach using Marshall and Swift valuation service and comparing this cost to the actual final cost of construction for the project. Marshall and Swift is a nationally recognized authoritative valuation manual that allows us to build up an independent value using the cost approach. We would also look at the building cost of comparable stations that were constructed recently, such as the Brightline Boca Raton station, which would provide us another benchmark for the cost approach. Our final reconciled valuation will be at 85% of the various cost totals due to Florida statutes. Martin County was touting in their August 6th agenda item for Brightline that we would receive $45 million in ad valorem revenue. Folks, you decide how true that is. That's what staff was going to tell the commissioners about that. None of the other stations, the ad valorem revenue is not even close to what Brightline said they put into it. I've mixed some commercial as well as the highest priced homes in Martin County. Remember, for our Brightline station at $45 million is $5,134. Campbell Rich's bargain station is $1,483 per square foot. Indigo Apartments, that's the first one I have. It's at the corner of Indian and Canner. Fairly new. It received a lot of attention. It's valued at just over $29.6 million. It's a little over 236,000 square feet, $126 per square foot valuation. CubeSmart, you know that big building that's on US 1 as you come into Stuart, it's gray with red shutters. That's valued at over $8.2 million. A little over 117,000 square feet, built in 2021, $70.54 per square foot, folks. $70.54. Hutchison Shores Hotel, if you've been out there, it is absolutely gorgeous, the most stunning hotel in the area, built in 2017. It's valued at just over $30 million. It is over 157,000 square feet. The valuation, $191.58 per square foot. How about the largest mansion in Martin County? You know, the one we go out and visit every year at Christmas time because they are so gracious to decorate that beautiful home and the guest homes with the thousands of Christmas lights. That mansion out there on Hutchison Island is valued at over $14 million, almost 25,000 square feet, $567.52 valuation per square foot. How about Celine Dion's home? Y'all remember that being in the news? It's on Jupiter Island oceanfront. 13 bedrooms, 14 bathrooms, guest house, golf simulator, 400 feet of ocean frontage, water park with a lazy river, water cannon slides, and a treehouse. Valued at over $16.6 million, over 25,000 square feet. The value per square foot, $663.73. So, to be fair, let's remember the proposal allocates 1,000 feet of track and a parking lot. Parking, striped, paved, all the civil work is about $250,000 per acre. Remember, my husband does financing for a living. He sees this stuff every day of the week. The parcel is 2.35 acres, so let's overestimate and say there's a full 2 acres of parking. That's $500,000. The track, about 8 years ago, I was told, is about $1 million per mile. But we all know everything's went up in price, so let's say it's $2 million per mile. 1,000 feet is a fifth of a mile, so that's $400,000. Remove $900,000, let's make it an even million, make things easy, from the $45 million, and that comes to $5,020 per square foot valuation. Vice Mayor Campbell's price takes it down to $1,369 per square foot. Folks, you can check out any property you want. Divide the improvement value by square feet. I challenge you to find a property in Martin County that's even close to the cost of this little train station. Only government can hand out our money as if it grows on trees. This is insanity, and no wonder our taxes are raised every year. This is only one project. Where is the oversight? Who is watching the taxpayers' treasury? One more point you can figure is the parking garage. I told you earlier in the show, it's $20,000 a space. Stuart, they allocated $30 million. Told you it was for a parking garage. $30 million for a parking garage. It should cost $8 to $9 million. And then they took the parking garage away. Was the bait and switch planned from the start? Was it just for fun to spend other people's money? Or was it? I'll let you decide. One more thing before we get into the Brightline financials and why you should be concerned about the transit-oriented development parcel Brightline required. At the City of Stuart Commission meeting on August 12, the Commission voted 4-0 on Resolution 52-2021. Commissioner Collins was absent. This is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Stuart authorizing the city to enter into a long-term lease and development agreement with Brightline for the construction of a passenger rail station on Flagler Avenue in accordance with the amended interlocal agreement entered between the City of Stuart and Martin County, providing effective date and other purposes. Within that resolution, it states, now, therefore, be it resolved by the City Commission of the City of Stuart, Florida, as follows. Section 1. The precatory language above is hereby adopted as if set forth below. Section 2. This is the big one, folks. The City of Stuart and Brightline Trains have drafted a long-term lease and development agreement that provides clarification as to the terms and responsibilities of the parties in the furtherance of their joint effort for the development of a train station within the boundaries of the City of Stuart. Folks, the lease was not presented or shared with the commissioners or the public. Not one commissioner asked to see it. I don't know, maybe they saw it before, but they didn't ask to see it at the meeting. Yet they voted yes without reviewing that actual lease and development terms in the public. I hope the agreement is rescinded just so the public can review the parameters of this marriage that will last 80 years. If it's not rescinded on September 9, it is possible to void the resolution if the Board of County Commissioners vote no. Well, let's move on to Brightline financials. Brightline lost $116 million in the first quarter of 2024 alone. We Care Martin reported they incurred losses of $307 million in 2022, $260 million in 2023. Folks, Brightline has yet to turn a profit at any time. They simply keep refinancing their debt and adding on to debt as they expand. When expansion ceases and no more money is coming in, I'm warning you today, get ready for Armageddon. Even at the cost of tickets reporting in December of 2023 of $25 short distance, $92 long distance, that's an average price. Since then, they've increased. Brightline is not close to turning a profit. In 2014, Brightline, which was then All Aboard Florida, was touted to be a $1.6 billion venture connecting Orlando and Miami. Like the high-speed passenger rail system in California, the price is only ballooning with no end in sight. Earlier this year, Mayer Brown, a law firm founded in Chicago in the late 1800s and is now a leading international law firm that has offices in 27 cities throughout the Americas, Asia, Europe, and the Middle East, advised Morgan Stanley on a $5.35 billion with a B, refinancing structure deal for Brightline. The proceeds of the various financings were used to completely overhaul Brightline's capital structure by refinancing over $5 billion with a B, dollars in debt and funding various reserve accounts. Broken down, there's $2.219 billion in investment grade rated tax exempt private activity bonds issued by the Florida Development Finance Corporation and partially insured by Assured Guaranty Municipal Corporation, $25 million under a senior secured revolving credit facility, $1.325 billion in taxable high yield senior secured notes, $80 million under unsecured unsubordinated credit facility, $925 million, almost $1 billion, in unrated tax-exempt private activity bonds by FDFC. Unrated is the riskiest there is. $775 million in preferred equity. Part of this financing, as reported in Bond Buyer in April 2024, includes $925 million of unrated tax-exempt bonds, the high-yield bonds considered the riskiest in the debt stack. Brightline hit the tax-exempt market in April 24 with more than $3.1 billion of low investment grade and unrated bonds, some with carry yields as high as 12%. Folks, that's $120 million per $1 billion a year in interest alone. But even the investment grade portion did not sell without an insurer, Assured Guaranty. As Florida's Brightline passenger train floated its first investment grade and insured bonds transaction at the end of April, a key part of the deal for insurer, Assured Guaranty, was the control it would have if the insurer runs into debt payment trouble. Assured wrapped $1.13 billion or 51% of the senior bonds issued by Brightline as part of a larger debt restructuring. It gives Assured, whose policy is irrevocable, a controlling vote for remedies if bondholders need to direct the bond trustee, Deutsche Bank, to take action. Quote, a critical aspect of insuring a majority of the bonds is that if something unexpected were to happen, Assured Guaranty would be the party deciding what actions to take on behalf of the senior bondholders, said Lauren Potash, Managing Director and Head of Infrastructure Finance and Project Finance for Assured. What happens to Martin County's investment if the train goes bankrupt? Assured is protecting its interest. Are our interests insured? Folks, you need to write the commissioners or attend those upcoming meetings. Your voice needs to be heard. Chad Farrington, a bond strategist with 25 years experience, quoted, I don't know if I have ever seen in my 25 years a bond issued with 12% yield. Who's watching our Martin County's interests? Not only is Brightline acquiring a large amount of debt, they have not stood up to agreements they have made. They reneged on a deal with Richard Branson to use his Virgin brand. When it came time to pay the bill, they refused. Branson took Brightline to court and won the judgment of $115 million against Brightline. Earlier, Sprint Communications had to sue Brightline for over $646,000 over allegations related to the use of Sprint's utility poles and the cost of relocating them. That lawsuit was settled out of court. Martin County and Stuart, what will you do if Brightline reneges on their agreement with us? Do you have a reverter clause to get our property back? Do you have a clause that they cannot leverage our property? This company has an unproven business model in which many believe will never be profitable. Why such a long term on the lease? How about renewal terms every 5 years instead of 40? Who is protecting our assets? Now we're going to talk about that transit-oriented development parcel. And before I go into that, I'm going to read a comment from Alliance for Safe Trains. They contacted me and asked me to read this. From the start, citizens across the region recognized that this project was not just about passenger rail, but also about doubling freight capacity and a real estate play. Fortress Investment Group wanted a number of its corporations to capitalize on this one so-called private corporate project. Ignoring two high-speed rail studies done for the Miami to Orlando route, the corporation found the sweet and cheap spot by adapting their 100-year-old freight rail system to handle both passenger rail and freight. The other studies recommended using land along I-95 or the Turnpike with existing feeders along the route to build a true high-speed rail system capable of going over 125 miles per hour. High speed is actually determined to be at 155 miles per hour, might be 150. Instead, Fortress wanted a project that could do on the cheap, and so higher speed rail was born. The sweet spot, 80 to 125 miles per hour speed limit, didn't require the expense of true high-speed rail, knowing taxpayers would eventually pay for the large part of the alterations, including multi-million-dollar bridges, street upgrades, stations, and more. Their marketing studies showed speed was the main selling factor, so multiple stops along the route were out of the question. Does that answer why we're only getting 2 stops northbound and southbound? On the cheap also meant cutting costs wherever possible, including fencing along the route and pedestrian bridges and quad gate systems at every crossing. Now we see the result of their cost-cutting measure in the death toll of the system. Over 120 people have perished on the line in just over 5 years. It is the deadliest train in America. With the hue and cry of angry residents, Fortress dangled the prospect of a station for their town and saw the public relations benefits of pitting one town against the other, vying for a coveted stop. By reveling in the clamor and the campaigns by the towns, Fortress management knew all along they could only afford to stop where they had to slow down. Every minute added to the arrival time of a train meant fewer riders. They can't stop. Regardless in the drop of real estate values and ad valorem taxes, towns like Stuart were now on the hook for millions and millions of taxpayer dollars for the luxury of paying more and more over the coming years. Of course, the longer it takes to build and operate the station, the longer Fortress doesn't risk losing riders by slowing down. The system should never have been built here in the first place, but corporate greed reigned. Now the residents of the region should stop feeding the beast. Let it suffer the financial consequences of fewer short route riders and operational losses. Why help out the nefarious, greedy private corporation which brought disaster upon itself? Again, that is from Alliance for Safe Trains. My comments on the Brightline train-oriented development, Martin County, that they required. We don't know if they're going to get it. It's not in this first interlocal agreement. It's not included. It's not excluded. What is transit-oriented development? Transit-oriented development is an urban development approach that maximizes multifamily housing, business, and leisure spaces within walking distance of public transportation, such as train stations. It also removes parking requirements at these multifamily housing because they can ride the train. When Brightline awarded the station location to Martin County and Stuart, one of their requirements was the right to develop a parcel right next to the land under a lease agreement of $1 per year for 80 years. The parcel is located next to the Sailfish ball fields in Stuart and the proposed Brightline train station. Additionally, Brightline required an extra 3 acres from the city of Stuart under the same lease terms of $1 per year for 80 years. The agreement stated, in the event that the city of Stuart remediates the city-owned land located south of Monterey Road, the city would agree to lease to Brightline approximately 3 acres of land at the same terms. The interlocal agreement approved by the City of Stuart on August 12 does not clearly include or exclude either requirement. The submission suggests that the topic might be addressed in the future, possibly to avoid immediate public scrutiny. Notably, the TOD parcel, which is currently owned by the county, was initially set for public discussion on the August 6 Board of County Commission agenda, but was canceled on the day of the meeting. The TOD parcel was also absent from the subsequent BOC agendas on August 27 and now on September 10, despite the presence of Brightline discussions. Why was this topic removed? What guarantees do we have that Brightline will not use the train station as leverage to acquire the TOD parcels? Could Brightline pressure our community by threatening to withdraw services unless they are allowed to develop the TOD parcels? It is essential that our commissioners take a clear stand with residents now and include a clause in Brightline contract that prevents any further land from being awarded to Brightline. If Brightline wishes to acquire future parcels, they should do so under the same conditions as any other private business operating in a free market. TOD is a critical component of Brightline's strategy and is managed through its Florida East Coast Industries division. A simple Google search for Brightline and TOD will yield enough information of reading for weeks. As reported by the University of Florida's due diligence, Florida East Coast also built multifamily residential properties under the brand name Parkline, 816 units with 2 towers perched above the Miami Central Station and 90 more units in a tower in downtown West Palm Beach. Last year, Florida East Coast sold its Miami apartment towers to Harbor Group International for a reported $450 million. Without confirming the price, a Brightline spokesperson said it represented the highest gross sale price for a residential property in the history of Southeast U.S. The sale followed Florida East Coast transaction involving its West Palm Beach apartment tower and 14,000 square feet of retail space sold to an affiliate of New York Life real estate investors for a reported $115 million. Our investment in real estate was designed to initiate train ridership and help spark new projects around our stations, Ben Porritt, Senior Vice President of Corporate Affairs at Brightline, stated in an emailed response. And also, the investment made by Brightline has spurred significant commercial and residential growth as proof that transit-oriented development works, and more is needed. Folks, just because the land is leased to Brightline doesn't mean they can't build a multifamily residential community on a TOD parcel and then sell it. The Azul property in Stuart is leased from the city, and that was obviously there's apartments built there and sold to another entity. We need to protect our land. Are there any requirements about what Brightline can do on these properties? Martin County residents need the Board of County Commissioners to set clear guidelines regarding any land parcels given to Brightline. The Board of County Commissioners should not provide preferential treatment to a single private company, especially one whose parent company is 70% owned by the United Arab Emirates Mubadala Wealth Fund, over numerous other entities that will not have the benefit of free land. Does TOD development suit Stuart? Will the sailfish ball fields be protected from TOD? The city of Stuart already considered building apartments on the ball fields in 2019. How confident are we that this proposal will not resurface, especially with Brightline pushing for TOD development? TODs being proposed in Boca Raton, paving over their ball fields just 2 years after the station opened. Boca blogger Les Wilson writes, quote, "At a time when Brightline has failed to be the expected game changer, the wind whistles through our empty $11 million taxpayer-funded parking garage. Now is the time to make your voice heard about turning over city-owned land for redevelopment." Let this be a bellwether warning to Martin County residents. Your lifestyle is being threatened, and I urge you to either attend the meetings on September 9, September 10th at the city and the county respectively, or email the commissioners your opinion. We must demand that our commissioners protect our community now and not delay decisions, allowing the proposal to be approved incrementally. While Brightline's train operations have been losing hundreds of millions of dollars, the company is profiting from transit-oriented development parcels. So speak up now, or risk seeing our piece of paradise developed to boost the bottom line of Mubadala investments. Folks, I see a lot of comments here and questions. I promise I'm going to go through them. One last comment here. I'm so frustrated that the county and the city are allocating millions and millions of dollars without public oversight at the drop of a hat. You know, I thought about New Monrovia. If some of you folks aren't familiar with that, it's a super fun site outside Port Salerno. New Monrovia was one of the first schools built in Martin County to educate African American children. Some may remember it as Mrs. Williams School, Costello Williams. She's a distinguished educator and teacher, most associated with a one-room schoolhouse in New Monrovia. New Monrovia has been here a long time. Residents received water and were promised a sewer many, many years ago, but they still don't have it. And right now, the main sewer line, it runs right through New Monrovia. Residents were repeatedly told through the years the county lacked the capacity to add them to the sewer. However, every time a new development comes through, the new development's able to get the sewer. And the county finally offered to put in a sewer, but wanted to charge those individual residents. But they couldn't afford it, folks. So those residents are still begging for sewer, sitting on the Superfund site in our county. We're talking decades. But yet Brightline comes through, a foreign-owned company, certainly not Martin County. And we are all of a sudden allocating money at the drop of a hat to the tune that'll total $60 to $80 million. Why do I say $60 to $80 million? Another proposal that the public has not been shared with the public, but we found in the email system, the city and the county received a proposal for bonds to finance the $30 million from the city and the $15 million from the county. It comes with 20-year, 25, or 30-year maturity. So the 20-year bonds, your $45 million will turn into $66,118,000. A 25-year maturity, your $45 million will turn into $73,909,000. That's at an interest rate of 4.2%. The 20-year maturity was at an interest rate of 3.92%. This is a proposal back from April. Again, folks, there has been no transparency. We have no idea what's going on because there's been no workshops. It has not been presented to the county commissioners. We just don't have insight. And again, I want to make it clear. Our county commissioners have not seen this either. They have not seen this since they approved for a 50-50 split cost proposal for with Brightline for a station in Martin County back in December of 2023. And finally, the 30-year maturity notes, the aggregate on that is at 4.37%, and that would end up costing $82 million for $82,041,000. Folks, this absolutely astounds me. It's absolutely incredible, the money here that is just being allocated with no oversight, with no public input. And folks, I hope that you write the commissioners. I can't stress this enough. Please, now is the time. I brought up resolution numbers in this show. All this is available on the city website, or if it's a county document, it's available on the county website. You can go and look at their agenda items. If you have trouble finding them, reach out to me, please. I will be happy to share them. I will post them on my website so you have easy access. Just let me know what you want to see. And again, the county is being asked to renegotiate the settlement with the very few benefits they did get in 2018. They're being asked to remove those. Again, Martin County's aerial pedestrian bridge, Brightline doesn't want to pay for any of it now. The free promo money to Brightline, $800,000. And of course, the bonds. Oh, and then the fencing. The fencing's a big one, folks. Again, Brightline was required to put in fencing that a safety analysis that they had hired to have done, but they wouldn't share the results with us. They said they would put in any required or recommended fencing. We don't know if they've done that or not because we weren't allowed to see that safety analysis. But on top of that, they were going to give Martin County $1 million to put in fencing wherever we wanted it. That's about 10 miles worth of fencing. That is being removed in the settlement agreement. And the little bit of fencing they are agreeing to put in, only if they get a grant. That's what the new settlement agreement says, only if they get a grant. So, folks, your time to speak up is now. We have just a couple minutes left. I see a ton of comments here. So this is absolutely fantastic. Exactly, these people are out for themselves, not the people of Stuart, certainly not the business community. Sean Reed, newly elected commissioners, on record on saying no to taxpayer funds for Brightline. Yes, he was. So was Laura Giobbe, by the way. So were our newly elected county commissioners. They are not for taxpayer funding. They may have said, okay, the station's fine. That's great. Brightline, pay for it. Brightline at least pay for 50% like you agreed to in 2018. So this is all these different things. Barbara Osborne, I'm trying to transcribe your show. Google Doc voice text feature. I'll be handing them out to the the Board of County Commissioners. Would that be okay with you? Absolutely. I will be sharing the video with them as well, but a transcript would be absolutely fantastic, and I can send transcripts to you, Barbara. Give me an email, CaseyIngram@pm.me, and I can send that to you. So, folks, we have just 1 minute. Appreciate you tuning in today. Again, I'll go through these comments here this afternoon. If you need anything from me, CaseyIngram@pm.me, message me on Facebook, and I will be happy to help out. I hope you found this helpful. And folks, my last 30 seconds, please, it's time to contact the County Commission. City of Stuart will be meeting at 4. The item probably won't be heard until about 5, but their meeting starts at 4 p.m. The County Commission will be meeting September 10th on Tuesday, the following day. It is preset at 10 a.m. I hope to see you all there. I will be there. Take care, folks. Have a great day. Stay safe out there.